think for the parents at this table, I actually think we're all parents at this table. Those numbers feel very personal to me. I mean, and I think to all of us, right? I mean, it's just such an enormous hill to climb. And of course, it comes as, fertility rates, birth rates are declining. I mean, it dropped a full 1% from 2024 to 2025, Annie Carney. Of course, there are a lot of layers in terms of how we do policy here that, date back to this, a lot of which are cultural and kind of difficult to pull apart. But what does it say about kind of where we are as birth rates are declining, this cost is getting prohibitively expensive? It seems to add to the pile of things that make people feel like, I just can't do the normal things that I would have expected to be able to do in my life.
Yeah, I think we're of a generation where the idea that your kids will be better off than you were is not necessarily true anymore. And we can't promise that. We don't feel that we can promise that we're going to be able to give them more, or they're going to be more successful and set up for life than we were. And that's a little bit scary. And I think that is the reality for a lot of people as costs go up across the board, that it's like the death of the American dream across the board, that if you work hard, you can raise your family, you can own a house, you can send your kids to college. Like, that all feels really fragile right now for a lot of Americans.
And I think if you look at recent polling of young people, we've seen a significant deprioritization of having children and starting a family, and it's no doubt it's directly tied to their increased anxiety about the economic crunch they are facing in this ever-changing economy. And so you just add on the stats that you're saying about what it will cost in childcare, and I think it sort of confirms why we see that notion of young people thinking, starting a family can't be my highest priority because I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually support that.
Yeah, this is also one of these things where our childcare system, our school system is also outdated. If you think about it, if your kid goes to school at 8:30 a.m. or 9 a.m. and they're getting out at 3 p.m., what working parent can actually handle a 9 to 3 p.m. work schedule? Many of them need to be in the office by 8 a.m. They can't get out until 5 p.m. There's also things like people used to rely on their family members. They used to live close by their family members to handle things like childcare and stuff like that. And so they didn't have to rely to send their kids to an aftercare program or childcare program. That is no longer the case. People are having kids later. There are, as we have mentioned, I am certainly someone that had kids close to 40. The parents are older. And so the way that our system is currently now is it does not meet the needs of today. And also, if you look at the studies, I'm actually surprised that Donald Trump said that, because things like universal pre-K have known to be great help and beneficial to our kids. And so it's not about like keeping your kid home anymore with your parent or whatever. They actually need to be in a school setting very early on. And so I think we need to look at the entire system and modernize it to today's working environment, because it's completely outdated.
But most of this is being driven at the state level, and that's where it can best be done, where you can see this incubation of new ideas taking hold. This is where welfare reform came from Wisconsin in the 80s and 90s and became national politics, like 10 years later. Likewise, for childcare, it is the incentives and the implementation is done at the local level. There are tax incentives. And the interesting thing about what President Trump said is his administration, the first administration, had a major change in tax policy that raised the amount of deductibility for childcare. That is something to talk about. Trump accounts, something to talk about, so you can actually save not just for college, but get your children on the process of having ownership in America, right, in the growth of the economy. There are winning things that this administration should be talking about that they have done. And likewise, where we are today is markedly better than where we were before COVID, because of both Biden policies and Trump policies together have actually made things better for parents. No one knows that because we're experiencing an affordability challenge. Everything is going up, and the price of everything's going up, and wages are not keeping pace with that, which adds this other layer of a lack of optimism about what we can do for the next generation. We need people more optimistic so they have more kids and actually help improve society.
I think
last word
that Donald Trump's comment that we can't afford daycare or health care, Democrats definitely viewed that as a midterm gift.
Absolutely.
Just play that on repeat across the country, because those are the issues that people care about, and paired with the war in Iran that's costing us billions.
Right. Well, and we haven't
Doesn't
even
resonate
gotten
with
to
voters.
the cost of if you want to send your kid to college, what that costs now,
Right.
and whether or not they can even get a job out of college because AI is basically taking all the entry-level jobs. We'll have that conversation maybe next Saturday.